real-time demonstration of how I use the Procreate app on my iPad. So any glitches, unprofessional things that you may detect regarding the video, it's I do a lot of videos, but I don't do this very often where the phone is kind of hanging up here, aimed at the iPad. Okay, that's enough said. So no more need to have any disclaimers. I just want to show you how I do paintings on the iPad using Procreate to make them look painterly or to make them look like they were done with real paint. So I want to show you one. This is a painting I did not too long ago. It's a painting of a scene in Montclair, New Jersey. I went there with Robin and her son, stepdaughter, and grandson. We went to a diner, and as we were walking there, I noticed the sidewalk had all this dappled light, and I liked the way that dappled light looked, so I took a photograph of it. And then later on, when I was back in my hotel room, I did this painting here, and you can see it does have a painterly look. It's very impressionistic. If you back it up and you look at it, you say, "Oh, well, that must be a person right there, and that's a car. That's a car right there, and obviously that's a sidewalk and a street and trees." But if you zoom in on it and you look at it real closely, you'll see that the car is really just a series of brushstrokes, similarly to the way you would do it if you were using oil paint or acrylic paint, and you were doing a painting with the intent of keeping it super loose, also known as Impressionism. All right, so that's that one. Now I'm going to start a new one. I want to show you this. Okay, so I'm going to open up a new canvas. Now this canvas, just so you know, if I was going to open up a new canvas, I would have to go here. Wait, that's a layer. How do I do canvases? I have to remember how I do it. Oh, okay. You go to the gallery, and then you go here, and then you pick a canvas the size that you like. So I typically like 16 by 20 because it's a popular size, and it's large. Large makes a difference because when you make it smaller later on, it doesn't lose anything. If you start small and make it bigger, it becomes pixelated. So 16 by 20 is my choice, and he gives me a 16 by 20 canvas. Now I don't put the texture on there. Whoops. I don't put the texture on there. You can put a texture that looks like canvas or a texture that looks like watercolor paper. But the reason I don't is because later on, when you print it on a canvas or on watercolor paper, the paper itself or the canvas itself will give it that texture. So I don't bother with that part. Although, if it was only going to be viewable on digitally, like on Facebook or on social media, then yes, you might want to add the texture. And it's a very simple process. You just have to have a photograph, basically, of a blank canvas, and then you kind of meld it into the painting. That's a different subject. Right now, I'm here to show you how to do a painterly digital painting. Okay. So here's my 16 by 20 canvas, and now what I want to do is I want to take the bottom layer and I want to make it this brownish, yellow, orange, whatever. And the way you do that, you can change the colors with this. This is the palette called Classic, and you can also use the one called Disc. And it's the same thing. You just look for the colors that you want and the depth and the lightness and the saturation that you want. I prefer to use the one called Classic. It's just preference, I guess, personal preference. And I'm going to make this one a little bit on the orange and brown side, and I'll explain why I chose those colors just in a moment. All right, now let's find the photograph that we're going to use as a reference photo to paint from. So you open up this and you go to reference, and so you find the reference photo you want. I already have it in there, so it's oh, where is it? Okay, it's down here somewhere. It's a picture of a scene in Quebec, and it's around here somewhere. I promise you, it's around here somewhere. So these are just my photographs. Here it is. This is the one I want to use. Okay. So this is the reference photo. You can see what it is. There's a couple of people sitting on a bench. The light pole. There's a blue sky, green grass, road. And I'm not going to try to replicate the photograph. I'm going to use the photograph as a reference and then make a painting from it. Okay? So what I would like to do is start with the very, very, very broad brushstroke. So I'm going to make this very small. The smaller it is, the larger the brushstrokes are when it's full size. So I'm going to start with the dry brush. Here's the dry brush. It's my choice. I typically use the dry brush. I also use this one called turpentine because it looks like oil. And the one that's called oil also looks like oil. But anyway, I mostly use turpentine and dry brush. Right now I'm going to use dry brush, and if I feel the need to use the turpentine, I will. Okay. Now, real quickly, let me explain why I have a kind of an orangish brown background. It's because this is mostly blue sky, blue ocean, and these greens are bluish, and the gray down here is not really bluish, but it'll work. And why? Because it's the opposite. Let's go back to that palette. I'm going to show you something. If you put the circular one on, and then you sample the color, okay, so there's the color right there. The exact opposite is this one. And what is that? That's like an orange, see? So it almost looks like that a little bit. And that's why I choose it, because it's the opposite of what I want to put on there. If the sky was orange, and that happens in skies, then I would put the blue as the complementary underpainting. And by the way, I do also do traditional art, real paint, acrylics mostly. And I do the same thing with acrylics. I will put a complementary layer on there. All right, enough said. Let's get started. I kind of like doing these things, so let's do one. So again, I have the dry brush, and now I want to make the dry brush. Here's how you make it bigger and smaller. There's the largest it'll be, and you can see it on there. It's way too large, so I'm going to use 2 fingers to get rid of all that, and I'm going to make it a little smaller. And so there's the color we want right there. I mean, not the color, but the size we want. You know, it's still painting in orange. So what I want to do is I want to go back to my palette, and we want to get a color that represents the sky, which of course is blue. So here's the blue. And now I'm going to start to paint the sky. And if I make it large enough for you to see it, you see how it looks like an actual paintbrush did that. Doesn't that look cool? All right, so, and of course we're attempting to achieve trying to paint and talk at the same time. We're attempting to achieve oh gosh, my brain is not working. I gotta stop. We're attempting to achieve gosh, not realism. What's the other word? I just said it a second ago. Well, we're attempting to achieve, well, whatever. I'll hear it later. I'll probably put it in the edit. Well, it's not realism. It's the opposite of realism. Oh, gosh. Can't believe I'm forgetting it. Okay, now if you compare that to that, that's a little more green than that is blue. So let's go back and kind of correct that, make it a little bit more blue. There we go. So, and it doesn't have to be exactly the same. And in fact, sometimes it's good to have more than one. Even in traditional paint, you want to sometimes keep the values of the paint a little less less consistent. So you just do this. You just tap it on there. Now, tapping it on there, by the way, gives it a little bit of a pointillism look. And right now I'm using a very large, if you consider this is 16 by 20, okay, 16 by 20, that's a very large area, and that would be a very big brush in the real world. But I'm just trying to paint in the sky with dots or with little tiny lines, almost like pointillism or like cross hatching almost. Okay. Impressionism is the word I was looking for, by the way. So we're trying to create a painting that has an impressionistic look. Gosh, that took forever to come out of me. I don't know why. All right, now if you notice, I just made it a little bit darker. I want to make the sky a little bit darker. And I want to explain a little bit about layers too while I'm doing this. I'll explain when I do that. So from this point on, I'll probably just paint and talk and explain what I do as I go. And this is not a tutorial in the sense that I want you to recreate my painting. I want you to create your own paintings and use your own photographs or photographs you find or those snapshots you get off of videos. Now you see what I did right there? I made it a little bit lighter so that the sky by the horizon is just a little bit lighter, and I can mix them later, just like you would with real paint. So, and also I probably will add some clouds to this sky. I just think it needs to have a little bit of cloud in the sky. So there we go. So now this is not the end of the sky. I'm just putting it down there as a place to begin. All right, now the clouds, or rather the mountains in the back, they have kind of a purple look, don't they? And they're very unsaturated. It's very almost hazy. So what we want to do is we want to find that purple. That looks like about right. And we want to put that in there. So there we go. Just put a little bit of a hint. And again, I'm not trying to recreate the scene exactly. By saying that, I give myself license to not do it exactly. If I was doing a portrait of a person, then yes, you have to do it exactly, because I mean you can still keep it impressionistic, but a portrait is not really good if you don't capture the likeness. So that's one thing. But when you're doing landscapes, you can have fun with them. You know, the Bob Ross videos and the whole Bob Ross contribution to the world of art is such a freeing thing that he did. He made people realize you can just have fun with it and just enjoy the whole process of painting. You don't have to be the next great thing, or maybe you are the next great thing. Maybe by doing things impressionistically or quick painting, as he would do, happy accidents and all that. So if you notice what I'm doing, I'm lightening it a little bit. It just needs a little bit lighter. That purple was a little bit too stark. So I'm just trying to make it a little bit less obvious. Okay, and the tapping is just part of it, because obviously it's plastic on glass. So, all right, now let's go back to the blue and make it a little bit lighter. And I'm going to show you something also. See this little switch right here, this little knob, that changes the opacity. So I've had it at complete opacity. Now I'm going to drop it to, let's say 68 or whatever. And that way it's not going to be so stark. So I can add in some of that haziness of the sky and not have to worry about it dominating the color that's already there. Instead, it'll be just kind of a hint at it. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create that look that's in the photograph of a hazy, distant sky and a hazy, distant mountain, and keep it like that. All right, now I think the sky needs to be a little bit bluer. It still has a little bit of a green going on there. So I'm going to try and do that. No, still kind of greenish. How about there? Might get the opacity a little bit stronger. Yeah, it's sort of doing it, I guess. But I'm also going to add some clouds, I think, just to make it, I don't know, just seems like it needs some clouds. Okay, so what I have done now so far is I've created that very, very back area from the mountains to the top of the sky. And now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add the blue for the water. And you probably realize that it's all on one layer. So I only have one layer right now. We can add more layers. Right now I don't need to add another layer. I'm just going to find a blue that looks like that water out there. There we go. And let's put that in there now. Let's put that. And again, that has a very blurred out, hazy look to it in the distance. And on the photograph, it doesn't go all the way to the end. It has kind of a triangle shape to it. So let's try to replicate that a little bit. I'm going to try to, I tried to do this live, but I don't know how to do that yet. So I have to read up on how to do a live video. The live would be good because you would be able to then communicate with me. I'll probably have to have Robin help me because I'm not that ambidextrous doing everything like that. But. All right, now what I don't like about this water, even though that's pretty much one color, is it's one color, so I don't like that. Just like I don't really like the sky like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of light just here and there, just to make it a little bit more realistic, or at least realistic feeling. Okay, and go back into the sky. I really think that the only difference between doing something digital and something with traditional paint is the swiftness with which you can do things. You can use the digital tools, whether it's Procreate or Photoshop. You can use them and use the digital tools, or you don't have to. You know, you can just do this, just paint it like you're going to paint something. Now, what I'm trying to do here, by the way, is to just create all the stuff in the background. So I'm not going to worry about the people yet, or the lamppost, or the bench, or these trees. Just the background. And this area right here, by the way, is way too plain. So I'll either make the picture more like this, the composition. Yeah, I might do that. Yeah, in fact, that's not a bad idea. I'll do that. And so that'll require something. I'll show you what I'm going to do in a second. But yeah, that's a better composition, I think, like that. So what I'm going to do, now this is on one layer. Now here's a digital trick. I'm going to take that whole thing I just did, and I'm going to pull it down, because now I want to have the foreground a little bit bigger, or closer, rather. Okay, now let's see what I did. I pulled it down, and I messed it up. So I'm going to make it, I'm going to stretch it a little bit so it hits the lines, goes over the lines. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this smudge tool. There's the smudge tool. I have it set to dry brush, and I'm going to take this top layer and I'm going to smudge it up into the area that we didn't paint, and I'm going to make it really big so that I can just do it really quickly. There you see. Now I'm taking the sky and I'm making the sky way bigger, which, by the way, makes me realize how much more important it is to add clouds to this sky. It's just too plain. It needs to have some more. So let's do that right now. Okay, so now let's go back to the brush. And there it is. So let's give it a little bit of white for the clouds. Whoops, something went away on my camera. Okay. All right, so now let's just make some clouds. Just add some white. There we go. Just a little. Probably have to add a little bit of purple to the bottom of them, or gray, to make them have a little bit of depth and shadow. And clouds are interesting because they don't look alike at all. They never do. You could have clouds, you could paint a picture of clouds and somebody would say, you didn't do the clouds right. And you could say, well, that's the way I saw it, because clouds always have a difference in appearance. Difference in opinion. Opinionated clouds. All right, well, there we go. A couple of little areas of clouds right there. It's not too bad. I might tweak them later on, but there we go. That's what we have. Okay, and I'm going to add some more of that same color I'm using for the clouds to lighten up the lower part of the sky. And then let's try some of that purple a little bit, just a tiny bit, to make a little bit of shadow underneath the clouds. It doesn't have to be purple, it's just my choice for right now. One of the things I like to use in traditional paint is the color called Payne's Gray. Payne's Gray is it's like a magic color. It seems to work for everything. You can use Payne's Gray in so many different things. But in digital, I guess there is no Payne's Gray. Okay, now just add a little bit of depth to these mountains. Just a little bit, so you have the sense that they're not just flat up against the background. They got a little bit of shade going on. There we go. All right, now back to the water. I'm gonna make it a little bluish, bluer. There we go. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to take this wall here and try to replicate that. So that wall has an kind of a beige or light yellow, like that color right there. And let's just grab it and make that wall. We can add shadows later on. Just gonna brush it in. Now it only goes behind those ladies. I guess they're two ladies. It goes right there, that wall. Okay. And then it's got a little bit of a darkness going on over here. Some of the things, I'm going to make the brush very small, and I'm going to add a little bit of line here so that it... Now this is where I might need to use the turpentine brush, because the turpentine brush has the ability to do finer lines than the dry brush. The dry brush is better for big things. So there we go. Make that little bit of a line there. And I think I'm going to use the turpentine brush some more just to add some texture to that wall. You see what I'm doing? I'm trying to replicate that. And then it looks like there's some grass at the bottom of the wall. So I'm going to do that. Now at the top of the wall, there appears to be, so this is where I might have to make it bigger, but let's just do it in small, and then I'll make it bigger. So there's a little box there or something, and then there's a light color. I'm going to make it white. And it right goes across here. That looks like the top of the wall, probably the light from the natural light from the sun, just hitting the wall there. And it's over here. And then there's a dark pipe or something that goes over it. And it looks like it's not perfect. It's got some like chips in the paint or something. So I'm going to just kind of try to do that. And I'll come back to it. Now I have to add some little hints of shadows to this wall, because it looks like the wall is actually blocks. So we'll just kind of add these marks here that look like blocks, like large cement blocks. Okay, and it's very, very still sketchy. Still very sketchy. And we come over here. All right, now, this area right here, see how dark it is? In this area right here. So let's do that. Let's find a green. There's a green, and then make it really super dark. We can always fix that later. So now we're going to go back to the dry brush, and we're going to paint in the brush right there, which we will fine tune later on. Now, it might have been smart for me to do this on a different layer, because then I could change it. But since I already started, I'm not going to worry about it. But you see how that goes up into the sky there, so we'll take that up there. There's some of the branches of this tree. So, and the only reason I'm confident that I don't need to do this on a second layer is because I'm happy with the way the background looks. And, you know, if it was traditional paint, real paint, you would have to work it with the paint anyway. You can't do layers in that way with real paint. All right, so let's just keep dabbing and dabbing and dabbing and painting those bushes over there. And if you look over here, there's more over there. So I had seen that earlier, so I knew that they were there. And even if they weren't, you know, you can add in your own shrubbery. It's the composition that matters. You're not a photographer in this case. You're not trying to replicate a photograph. You're trying to use a photograph as reference. Okay. So then this area right here comes around here. This is in front of that wall, and those other things are behind that wall. So let's try to do this. I'm going to stop tapping. I'm just going to start scrubbing it in there. Makes it a little quicker. There we go. Just scrub it in. Okay, so it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to represent. That's why it's called impressionism, because it gives you the impression of what you're trying to paint, what you're trying to illustrate. Okay, so now we want to go back to this yellowish, beigeish color, and you see back there on that fence, it seems to be a little bit darker back behind those bushes. And then on this side, looks like that wall comes around this way and does the same thing. So we want to make it a little bit lighter on top, because that's where the sun is hitting it. And the box there. And then of course we want that dark pole that seems to be crossing over. And now we're going to go back to this and put some dark shadows on there, just to create the illusion. All right, now you see here, you got some dark here, so let's continue with that. Put some dark right there. Okay. So I'm not really sure what that is. I don't know if it's a plant or if it's a rock sculpture or something, but I'm putting it all in there. Okay, and then over here you have the sunlight hitting it from that side. So let's put some yellow. There we go. So we have that look of, and then some of these areas that have some highlights on them. Again, I'm not sure if those are bushes or stones. Make it a little bit darker. And there we go. Now we want to go back to the greens, and we're going to again make it very dark, and we're going to make this right here, which represents that area right there. I'm going to bring it across. Okay, kind of make it dark, because in there, that's where we can put all those little light things that almost look like cabbages. Okay, so we're going to find some yellowish green, very light colored. We're going to add those little things, a little bit more yellow, I think. Okay, so you see how that looks? Okay, now some dark again. Make sure we get all that dark area in there. Okay, now let's put some of these wispy areas here. Okay. All right, so this is still all background, but it is part of the composition. And then let's put some little hints of yellow into the bush back there, because it's also catching the light from the sun. Okay, some dark. Okay, so there we go. We have a little bit of this sense that there's some kind of a garden here, which represents the garden that these ladies are sitting in front of. Okay, again, it doesn't look exactly like it, but if we're doing it right, then we'll have a nice picture when we're all done. Okay, now this area over here where the grass is, we want to, let's just sketch it in there real quick, because we're going to go from here down to here, and we're just going to kind of have some fun with it. So let's add some green as if it was grass, and we'll start with dark and then we'll add light to it. So I'm going to make it pretty big, because I'm going to make it very easy to do for myself, and I'm going to scrub it instead of tapping it. Yeah, just makes it a little bit easier, quicker. Okay. Okay. Now let's get some yellow into that grass, a little bit yellow. Okay. We want to make the grass. Now we can tap it in, try to give it more of a grassy look to it. See, the green underpainting, the dark green underpainting kind of helps, because it shines through, or it doesn't shine through, but it comes through. Okay. Yeah, we can always change all these things later. Everything is changeable. Okay. Now, I wanted to do something here. I'm going to come back to this grass, but this area right here where the pavement is, I want to do that, but I don't want to make it so stark and plain. So I'm just going to try and take this gray color, kind of a light gray. I'm going to put it in there and just kind of give the sense that there's some pavement there, or some concrete, some kind of a sidewalk. However, it's just too plain. It's just too, it doesn't do anything for me. So what I like to do, I'm going to add a little bit of purple. Does that sound unusual? Purple's a good color, especially dark. All right, so I want to make some dark areas here with the purple. And it's not defined exactly as to where. I'm going to make it more of a black than a purple, but purple black. It doesn't really, there's no definition as to where these little patches of shadows are coming from. there might be a tree behind us or a tree outside the picture frame. Obviously there wasn't one in the real setting there, but I just think it's more interesting to have that dappled light, just like the one I showed you from Montclair, New Jersey. And in that case, the light really was there, so I had everything I needed in the reference photo. All right, now let's put some light. Light is yellow, and we're going to put some there, some just as if it's coming through a tree, or there's just something that's only allowing some light to come through. And we'll make sure it happens on the grass too, because obviously it wouldn't stop on the sidewalk. And one of these days I'll learn how to set my iPad up so I don't get those messages, but you don't really care, right? All right, so now you see what we did. We got like almost a whole painting done. And what I'm going to do is get rid of the reference photo just for a second, because I want to make it large and show you and also correct a lot of things. So it's a very impressionistic painting, isn't it? I don't like that area right there. So what I want to do is take the smudge brush, make it small, and let's just smudge it away. I can always fix it later. See, once you make it big like this too, you can do a lot of the details that you can't do when it's small. And right now I'm using the smudge brush as a brush just to push the pixels around or the paint around. And so there we go. All right, so now we have, this is the first layer. Let's bring up the reference photo again. Let me do that again so you can see it. My hand was in the way. So you hit here. Let me do it with the pen. You hit here. Okay. And then, whoops. Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to do that. Wait. All right. You hit here. And then down here it says reference. You turn it on. And if it wasn't there, then you would have to search for it. But it's right there. So there we go. All right. Now, let's make the picture that we're working on small again. Because now we want to add some of the things. I just noticed that there's some, let me show you. There's some like red flowers right there, something going on. So let's just go ahead and add that. I think it'd be nice to add a little bit of color. So I'm just going to add just that color right there. Just a few touches. Just so somebody says, oh, there's flowers in that garden. Yep. Yes, there are. There are flowers in the garden. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit more yellow. I feel like the side of this hedge needs to be a little bit more exaggerated. Okay. All right, now what we want to do is we want to look at the composition and say, well, what do we like about the composition? Well, I like those two people, and I like that lamppost. So let's make sure we put them in there. Do we want to draw them that small? Yes and no. Yes and no. So let's take a second layer. Finally, we're going to use a new layer. Now, on that layer, I'm going to draw them that size. With what color? Well, how about just a dark color? It doesn't really matter. Because I want to put them in there. Okay, so there's that lady's head. And her shoulders, and looks like she's sitting. Make it a little bigger. I think I'll make it a little bigger than she actually is. There we go. And then she's sitting there, and then her friend is sitting over here. And they're facing each other, sort of, kind of. And she's got her leg up and one leg over. And she's got a seat, and they're on a bench. So let's just make this bench like this. Let's see, it looks like the bench goes about there. Okay. And now the lamppost is right about there. And it goes up into the picture to about there. Okay, so there we have the lamppost and the two people, but we don't. All we have is little squiggles. And now here's their shadow. Their shadow's coming over here. So we got to remember that shadow. Okay? Now, what I want to do is I want to make everything larger so that I can add the detail. So I'm going to make them very large. And I'm going to take the reference photo and I'm going to make it very large. Now I can see them very well. The reason I don't do them large and then make them small is because it would look weird. Keeping it like this keeps it more into perspective. Plus, all you really want is the light and darks anyway. So let's start with the two ladies. To me, they have fair complexion. I'm just going to take a crack at this. So here, this lady has, let me make the brush. I might have to use the turpentine brush for this because it's so small. Okay, so there's her face. And there is her face. You see that? That's all I did. Just put that little mark there. And now, I'm going to take the dark, and I'm going to make the dark her hair. It might be a guy, I'm not sure. And then there's some sunglasses, it looks like. And that's way too big. It looks almost Halloweenish. Halloween. Alright, I'm going to fix that. Let me get back to the skin tone. Yeah, see, that was too small. Okay. And now let's do a little bit of dark to try to create her face. Her eyes. We're not trying to draw eyes, we're just trying to draw shadows that look like eyes. Okay, now she's got like a dark blue shirt, jacket on. So maybe a little bit of purple. And again, the color doesn't really matter. So I'm going to scrub it in, make it a bit easier. She's got her arms folded like that. Okay. And there's a dark area right there between her lapels. A little bit of white area right there showing some kind of a shirt. And we're going to make a dark area behind here to create the shadow of that one arm. And the shadow of this arm, a little bit bright, a little bit of light, because she's got light hitting her right there. And fix her skin tone a little bit. Yeah, I didn't like that. I might need to use the turpentine brush there. Okay, back to the blue. Put a little bit of light on there. There we go. And there's her arms, and a little bit of reflection in her hair would be nice too. Okay. I'm not sure what's going on here. It's probably a jacket that's in the shadow, so I'm gonna make it hang there. And then we're gonna use, she's got a very white pants. So let's grab that and put that there. And this leg over here comes down there. And then her shoe is over here. And her other shoe, she comes down here. Another shoe here. Okay, now we're going to use the purple again for the shadows of her pants. Actually, I'm going to make it more blue, I think. I think it would work better. Okay. There we go. There we go, that looks good. Alright, now she needs a little bit more white to define those pants. Okay, there's a splotch of light. Right there. And give her a little shadow there for the the other side of the shoe. And of course she's going to have a shadow coming off of her. Like I said, I don't know what this is, but it looks like it's like a jacket or something she's sitting on. I think I made her a little too thin. She's probably not that thin in real life. So I hope she doesn't hear me. But anyway, so what I want to do, this is a trick here. Watch this. You take this and you lasso it around. I'm just going to do her whole body there. Okay, let me do it again. I had to check something. Okay, do the whole body. I'm going to make her a little fatter. So you do this, you do this, and you do whoops, I didn't mean to do that. You do the distort, and with the distort, you can pull it. Yeah, she's a little bit fatter. A little bit fatter, okay? And now there she is. Now, what I made a mistake with was I pulled her down, and I don't want to pull her down. I want to put her back where she was. Yeah. Now, when I did that, I don't know if you noticed, but there's some artifacts here, little openings where you can see where I spread things apart. So the remedy for that is to take the brush, the smudge brush, or the blending stump, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, see? And get rid of those little things. So now we have a very impressionistic painting of that woman. Now let's work on this woman. She's pretty much got the same thing going on. She's got a light blue blazer or something. So let's put the light on the light side. Oops, a little bit too blue, I think. There we go. There we go. A little bit of light in her hair. And her hair is, let's just make it black. And actually I made her hair a lot longer than it really looks, but I like the look because it looks like it's blowing in the wind a little bit. In fact, let's give this one longer hair too. Okay, so yes, these are not likenesses. This is impressionistic. Okay, so now she looks like she's also wearing white pants or whitish pants. And she's sitting like the opposite way on the bench. And there's a pillow here of some sort. So let's just sketch that in there real quick. Looks like there's a pink purse of some sort, maybe. It looks like a pink purse right there. It probably has more than one shade in it, so add a little shadow to that. So now we have the two ladies. You see? The two ladies are now there. The impression of them is, let's smudge that a little bit. All right, now let's do that bench. It's an odd bench, isn't it? So the bench looks like it's probably a very dark green. So there's the dark green, sort of, kind of like there. And let's just paint it in there. So there's probably the table part of where they're sitting. It's a picnic table of some sort. And there's the seat. There's the one in the distance. And the one she's sitting on. And of course the legs over there. And of course there's a shadow going to form. And we want to make her legs. Looks like she's sticking her legs out that way. And it's very in the shade, so we really want to make that more of a gray. And it looks like there's a couple of highlights that just are not defined of what they are. But there we go. And maybe there's a few things on the table. Maybe there's a bottle of water or something. And then we'll take some light green just to kind of give some sense that the table itself has a little bit of light on the surface. Okay, now there they are on that bench. How about that? Now let's go back down to here and find a really appropriate dark color. That would be the shadow of them. So everything's all the light's coming from the side And when you look at the lamp, it probably is too. Well, if it isn't, it should be. All right. All right, here we go. Okay. One more shadow. Okay. There we go. Now we got the two ladies sitting at the bench at the picnic table, and now let's do the lamp. So the lamp, as you remember, I just kind of sketched it in. It's also got a green color to it, so let's stick with that. It doesn't have the same shape as I made it, so again, that's not necessary. It doesn't matter, but I'm going to try to keep it similar. There we go. And put some dark on it. Give it the shadow on that side. And then here, looks like it's got that. And then it goes down. It's got a base. It's all about the base, you know. Okay. And now let's make that, oops, that's gray. Okay. Let's make that gray right there. And then make it a little bit darker on one side. Get that shadow again going over there. All right, now it's a lot thicker on the bottom than I made it, so let's fix that. Let's get some gray up here for that's perhaps the element that actually lights up at night. And I'm going to use the turpentine brush for this because it needs to be small. So let's just take that light color, make it a little bigger than that. There we go. There we go. It's a little bit too exaggerated, I think. That's okay, I'll fix it. All right, now let's take the dark. Okay, now, remember how I made the lady a little fatter than she was? Well, I'm going to make the lamp a little skinnier than it is. So let's do the same thing. Let's do the whole thing there. And distort it. And we're going to make it skinnier. Right there. And then I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the top part squattier and fatter, actually. So let's do that. So make it squattier, just a little fatter. There. Now we got to make sure we didn't leave any crazy little artifacts. Oh yes, I see some right there. So what we need to do is use the smudge tool and smudge it all out. Smudge some of these things too. And I think the lamp needs to be a little taller. So I'm going to stretch it. There. I guess that looks good. All right, now let's look at the composition and see what we can do. Well, right now, it looks pretty good. Let's get rid of the reference photo. We might not need it anymore. Okay, let's make this the whole screen, because you gotta try to remember that this is going to be perhaps printed on a 16 by 20 canvas. So excuse the shaking. I don't know. I have to figure out a way to make this not shake. But anyway, so that's what we have right now. A very impressionistic painting. Super impressionistic. But you can tell what it is. You can tell that it's two ladies talking. You can tell they've got a lamppost and some mountains and a little bit of a garden going on here. And to be honest with you, there's nothing wrong with keeping it like that. If I was going to do it a little bit more, I would add another layer just in case I messed it up. And I would probably make everything bigger. And then with the dry brush, just add little things that would make it more detailed, I guess you might say. So we don't really know all the details of this structure that they're sitting by, this plant or rock garden. But why don't we just make up our minds that we do know what it is? See? And just add just a little bit of detail to make it make sense to somebody. So maybe there's some shadows over here that we neglected. I like the idea of adding more dappled light effect over here. So I'm going to pretend there's a tree off to the side here. And I'm going to take some of this purple. I'm just going to add just a little bit of it. A little bit of a hint of shadows coming across there. There is something else I want to show you, as long as we're doing this. All right, now let's put some more yellow, and then I'll show you what I'm talking about. So if you've ever used Procreate, you might know about the multiply layer, or you might know about the multiply layer from Photoshop, or you might know about the color dodge layer. So let's do this. Let's put a layer on here that is completely going to darken it. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to go down to multiply. You see the word multiply right there? That's the word I want. So that's what I want. Now this is a multiply layer. Now with the multiply, what I do is I take this color and I take a shade of blue, maybe more like a blue-gray. Now watch what happens. I'm going to drag it in and make the whole thing. Oh, look what happened. The whole thing got tinted. I don't know if you can tell or not on the screen. But see, it gets brighter and a little bit darker. And then what you do, you should take the eraser. And you erase all the things that you want to keep light. See how that came out light? All right, so we're going to make it real big. We're going to do a lot of light here because there's a lot of light in the sky. You see? And then when you do that, you brighten up all the stuff that needs to be brightened up. And all the stuff that needs to be kept dark, it can stay dark. You see? So let's just assume that the ladies are lit, but not as lit as the background. The background is the sky, and it's got the sun in it, and it's got the mountains in it. So we're going to keep them a little bit dark for now. Okay, now I got all that sky area lit, and the top of the wall has that sunlight coming on it, so we're going to get that all lit. So they're behind the wall, see? Okay, let's get this all. Okay. And now this side of this bush has light coming at it. The side of the two women has light on it. Okay, the side of the bench, that side of the wall, and then some of this grass is going to have light on it, obviously. Okay, so you see how the light is now happening on the different things, that it's not on everything, it's only on certain surfaces. And I'm going to reduce the opacity of this. There we go. Okay. Now let's see if we can see the difference between the multiply layer and having no multiply layer. So that's with it, that's without it. Do you see? See how big of a difference that makes? Okay. I actually am not sure I like it, to be honest with you, but I wanted to demonstrate it for you anyway. Let's see if I can make it work and keep it, otherwise I'll just lose it. But it's definitely a digital trick that you can use. I use it a lot, actually. I'm just not so sure it'll work on this picture. I don't know what we should call this picture. Right now, let's try it on and off. Yeah, just a little hint of some dark areas. I'm still not so sure I like it. See, the women are the focal point of this picture, so I kind of think they should be lit. Now there's a part right there I don't like. Let me fix that. Not sure what that is. Let's try to figure out where that's coming from. Right there. I must have accidentally erased a piece of it right there. Okay, so that one. So let's decide if I want to keep the multiply layer. It doesn't do a whole lot, does it, actually? It adds a little bit. Maybe what I'll do is I'll reduce the opacity of it. Now let's try it. Yeah, I think I like that. Okay. So, see, I'm not completely happy with the fact I keep going back to it. Let me just get rid of some of these. Yeah, I'm not so sure I like those things in the sky. I like them in the bush, in a plant, but I'm not so sure the sky needs them. Let me get rid of them all. Okay, so that's the picture. I think I'm done. I'm going to sign my name to it, I'm going to put that on a separate layer. I'll show you how I do my name. If you look me up on my name, okay, so I do my name big, and then I make it small. So there's my L, there's my A, R, R, Y, W, H, I, T, L, E, R, 2022. And then what I do is I make it small. I just shrink the whole thing. Whoops. I shrink the whole thing. Nope. That's not what I want. Shrink it. That's what I want. Pull it down to the corner. Make it very small. Pull it down to the corner. And then what I do is I remove the, I move the year so it's next to my name instead of under it. Now I can move the year. Okay. And now move the whole thing. There. In a print, Robin usually makes an authenticity certificate. And then I sign that also. All right. Now I got to come up with a name for this. I think I'm going to call it lunch break, lunch break in Quebec. Right? Good name? That's what it's going to be. All right. Hope you liked it. Let me know if I could do anything next time that I didn't do this time. Bye.